Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today we're going to tackle something that's kind of foundational to business success, and honestly, even to just like understanding the world.
Hmm.
Data relationships. We're
Yeah,
going to explore why just having good data isn't enough.
right.
You need to understand how all those data points connect to unlock real insights.
It's like having, a box of random puzzle pieces versus like seeing the full picture, come together when you put it all together.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And our guide for this deep dive is this fascinating blog post by Ira Warren Whiteside.
Okay.
It's called Chocolate Cake, MDM, Data Quality, Machine Learning, and Creating the Information Value Chain.
Mm.
He uses this really clever analogy of baking a chocolate cake
Oh, fun.
to illustrate the idea.
Well, and who doesn't love chocolate cake, right? It's a perfect way to make a complex topic relatable and interesting.
Okay, so let's say you're tasked with baking this incredible chocolate
Yeah,
cake,
nice
right? You've got all
start.
your ingredients laid out.
Okay.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. Well, naturally, you'd want to make sure each ingredient is, top notch, right? Yeah. Fresh flour, good quality chocolate that would work.
Absolutely. But Whiteside argues that while having high-quality ingredients is important, it's actually not the most crucial factor.
Now, that's interesting. It seems counterintuitive at first. How can the quality of ingredients not be paramount to having a delicious cake?
Well, he argues that the relationships between the ingredients are what truly determine the outcome.
Okay.
It's about understanding the proportions, the interactions, the way each ingredient contributes to the whole.
So it's not enough to have excellent flour if you don't have the right amount of sugar or if your baking powder is old.
Exactly. It's about how those ingredients work together, the symphony of flavors and textures that create that perfect bite.
Right.
And Whiteside says it's the same with data.
We can analyze individual data points all day long, but if we don't understand how they relate to each other, then we're missing the real story.
He uses this example of calculating operating income to illustrate this point. So let's say you're a CEO and you're trying to get a handle on your company's profitability. You're going to be asking questions about revenue, expenses, and so on.
And to answer those questions, you're going to need data from various sources, right? Like sales figures, marketing, data information about different products and departments.
But here's where the data relationships come in.
Okay.
It's not just about having those numbers. It's about understanding the connections between them.
Mm-hmm.
For example, how do sales figures from a particular region relate to the marketing spend in that area?
Or how does the performance of a specific product line impact the overall revenue and ultimately the operating income? It's about connecting the dots to gain like a more holistic understanding.
And these connections often mirror real-world relationships and transactions.
Yeah.
So if a CEO digs a little deeper and asks, why are profits down in a certain region, they're going to need to follow a trail of data relationships to get to the answer.
Yeah, like maybe a particular product isn't selling well, which could be tied to, vendor issues in that region, or maybe even specific marketing campaigns that didn't resonate with the local audience.
Yeah, it becomes a fascinating investigation, right?
Yeah.
You're not just looking at numbers in isolation, but you're following the thread of connections to uncover the root cause.
Totally.
And this is where Whiteside introduces this concept of master data relationship management,
Okay.
not just master data management.
Interesting.
That subtle shift in terminology highlights the importance of focusing on the interactions between the data points.
I see.
It's about understanding the context and meaning behind the numbers
Yeah, I like that.
instead of just like looking at them in a vacuum.
Right.
So this concept, has some pretty far-reaching implications, not just for CEOs making decisions, but for anyone working with data.
Yeah.
Like think about data stewards, for example.
Yeah.
They're responsible for, ensuring data quality and accuracy.
Absolutely. Understanding these relationships is super crucial for data stewards because it allows them to kind of follow the flow of data, identify any potential inconsistencies, and then they can address issues, before they snowball into bigger problems.
Like having a map of the data landscape.
Yeah.
So you can see where the data originates,
Right.
how it's transformed, and where it ultimately ends up.
Exactly.
And this map becomes even more critical when we start talking about, analytical models and machine learning algorithms.
Right.
Oh, machine learning, the hot topic these days. Can you elaborate on how data relationships impact these sophisticated models?
Well, imagine trying to build a machine learning model to predict customer churn.
Okay.
You might have data points about, customer demographics, their purchase history, their website interactions, and so on.
But without understanding the relationships between these data points, your model would be like a chef trying to bake a cake without knowing which ingredients go together or in what order.
Exactly. You might end up with a model that's statistically sound, but it lacks real-world relevance. Like, it might flag a customer as high risk for churn just because they haven't made a purchase in a while, even though they're a loyal customer who interacts with your brand regularly through other channels.
Right. So it's not just about feeding the model a bunch of data. It's about feeding it the right data and understanding the nuances of how that data connects.
And this is where the concept of master data relationship management becomes so important because it provides the framework for building models that are not only accurate, but also insightful and actionable.
It's about moving beyond correlation and uncovering the true causation, understanding the underlying why behind the patterns that the model identifies.
Now, towards the end of his blog post, Whiteside raises a point that I find particularly thought-provoking.
Okay.
He talks about this concept of the minimal viable product, or MVP. It's a popular approach in project management where you focus on delivering like a basic version of a product very quickly and then iterating, based on feedback.
Yes. I'm familiar with the MVP approach. It's all about speed and efficiency, getting something out there to test the waters. But how does this relate to data relationships?
Well, Whiteside argues that when it comes to data and information, clients don't just want a bare bones MVP.
Yeah.
They want the whole chocolate cake, with all the frosting. They want that full picture, that complete understanding that comes from having all the data relationships mapped out and accounted for.
That's a really compelling argument. So in a world that often prioritizes speed and agility, how do we ensure that we're not sacrificing, this crucial element of data relationships just to deliver a minimal product?
It's a delicate balancing act, right? On the one hand, we want to be responsive to, the changing market demands and deliver solutions quickly.
Right.
But on the other hand, we can't afford to overlook the foundational importance of those data relationships.
Because rushing to deliver a minimal solution might lead to flawed insights, inaccurate predictions, and ultimately decisions that don't align with the true needs of the business or its customers.
And that's where Whiteside's analogy of the chocolate cake really hits home, because just like with a cake, if you rush the process, you skimp on ingredients, you ignore those critical relationships between them, you might end up with something that looks like a cake, but it doesn't deliver on taste or satisfaction.
It might be edible, but it won't be that, delightful, fulfilling experience that you were hoping for.
Exactly. And in the context of data, that unfulfilling experience translates to missed opportunities, inaccurate forecasts, and decisions that ultimately hinder progress rather than drive it forward.
So as we kind of delve deeper into this idea of data relationships, it becomes clear that it's not just about, technical proficiency or understanding algorithms. It's about adopting a new mindset.
It's about seeing the data landscape not as a collection of isolated points, but as an intricate web of connections, a story waiting to be told.
And that story has the power to inform our decisions, shape our strategies, and unlock, a deeper understanding of the world around us.
It's about moving beyond the what and delving into the why, connecting those dots to uncover those underlying causes and drivers that shape the patterns we observe.
And this shift in mindset, this appreciation for the power of data relationships, is essential for everyone, whether you're a seasoned data scientist or just someone trying to make sense of the information overload that we face every day.
It's about cultivating that sense of curiosity, that desire to go beyond the surface and, uncover those hidden connections that are driving those outcomes.
It strikes me that, the concept of data relationships isn't just relevant for, businesses or data professionals.
Right.
Like, it's applicable to so many aspects of our lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about how we make decisions in our personal lives. We're constantly weighing different factors, considering the potential consequences of our choices.
Like choosing new car.
Yeah.
You might look at fuel efficiency, safety ratings, price, style.
But those factors don't exist in isolation.
Right.
We need to consider how they relate to our own needs and priorities. Do we value safety above all else? Are we willing to sacrifice some fuel efficiency for a more spacious vehicle?
It's about understanding the trade-offs, the interconnectedness of those factors, and how they align with our overall goals.
Exactly.
And this same principle applies to navigating, the complex world of information and data that surrounds us.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with, new statistics, opinions, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But by developing this awareness of data relationships, this ability to connect the dots, we can start to make sense of the noise and extract meaningful insights.
We can become more discerning consumers of information, questioning assumptions, identifying biases, and ultimately forming, our own well-informed conclusions.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into data relationships, I want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay.
Start looking for these connections in your own life, both professionally and personally.
Interesting.
Where can you start connecting the dots in your own data landscape? What relationships are you overlooking? What insights might you be missing?
Those are really good questions.
These are the questions that we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Because in a world that's awash in data, the ability to understand and leverage these relationships is no longer a luxury.
Right.
It's a necessity.
It is.
And it's a skill that will empower you to make better decisions, solve complex problems, and ultimately navigate the world with, greater clarity and confidence.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into data relationships.
Yeah, this was fun.
We hope you found it, insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Remember, keep connecting those dots. You never know what amazing insights you might uncover.
Until next time, keep exploring,